All right, so factoring with a leading coefficient that's different than 1 is a little bit more difficult to understand. But what I want to do is I want to break it down so that it's similar to the concept that we just did a little bit ago where we factored by grouping. So we're always looking for factors that add together to give you something. The first thing you want to do is you want to multiply these two numbers together, okay? And we're going to put that number here. When we do that, that changes this to x squared, okay? Because what we're doing essentially is moving that 2. And then we're going to bring down our 13. And now what we have is we have a problem that is very similar to the ones that we did earlier, where we're looking for factors of 30 that add together to give you a 13, right? So factors of 30 that add together to give you 13. So you're thinking of these cross puzzles. Factors of 30 that add together to give you 13. Well, that's 10 and 3, both positive. So I'm going to change this 13x to 10x plus 3x so that I can make it a grouping problem. When I do that, I'm going to go ahead now and bring down my 15 because that was from my original problem. And I'm going to go ahead and bring down my 2x squared as well because we got to keep all this stuff original. And now I have my 4 problems. So the whole reason why we do this middle step is so that I can figure out these factors, okay? And once I do that, now I can group. So let's go ahead and group these. So what can I take out of the first set of parentheses? Well, both of them have a GCF of 2x. So when I take 2x out, I'm left with x plus 5 in the parentheses. And on the other one, I can take a positive 3 out. And I will be left with x plus 5 as well. Remember, we want these two factors to be the same so we can pull them out. Our common factor is x plus 5, which leaves me with 2x plus 3. And I'm done. So it's a little bit more complicated, but I still think you can handle it, okay? So let's take a look at the next one. This time, again, we're going to multiply these two numbers. That is 72. We're going to bring down x squared, not the 8, and we're going to bring down our negative 73x. This is all just so that we can create our factors. So looking at our cross puzzle, we have 72 up here and negative 73 down here. So what are some factors of 72 that will add together to give you negative 73? Well, when you've got a really large number that you're trying to add together to get, usually that factor is going to be 72 and 1. You want to get 73, so you're trying to add to get that. But remember, you're trying to get negative 73. So that means these both have to be negative. So now I'm going to change this, right, so that it is negative 72x and negative 1x. I'm going to bring down my 9, because that's from the original problem, and I'm going to bring down my 8x squared. And now I'm going to group. So when I go to group, I'm going to check and see what I got left. All right, so what can I take out of the first set? Well, I can take an 8x out, and I will be left with an x minus 9. Now, I want an x minus 9 on the second part, and you notice that there's a plus sign in between, which is awful. We want the negative, and so what we need to do is we have to take a negative out. And if you look, the greatest common factor is 1. And what I'll have left is x minus 9, which is what I wanted, so that I can take my x minus 9 out, bring down my 8x minus 1, and be done with it. So it's that simple. I mean, you got to think a little bit about these, but I think you can handle it. All right, so let's try this one here. So let's try multiplying these two numbers here. So 2 times 13, that's 26, right? And so we can bring that down here. And then I'll have x squared minus 11x. Okay, So what we want to do is we want to find factors of negative 11, or factors of 26, my bad, 26, that will add together to give you negative 11. Well, the only factors that I can think of are 13 and 2. But there's no way that I can multiply these two things together and add them to get negative 11. See, I can make this 13 negative, but that would make this 26 negative, which doesn't work, right? Negative 13 plus 2 would be negative 11, but it wouldn't be positive 26. So we need to think about factors. Since these two factors do not work, and I can't find any that do, then this cross product here, this cross puzzle, does not work. And since it does not work, this will not work, and thus this cannot be factored. So sometimes you'll get all the way to the end of the thing and you'll be thinking, well, I did this right, and then nothing will factor for you. So you want to think about, you're trying to think of factors that are going to multiply together to give you a number, but add together to give you another number. If they don't work, then it can't be factored. Now don't just go, oh, well, it can't work. It just can't work. None of this can work. Because there are a lot that will work. There's only probably 1 out of every 30 that don't work. So sometimes there are those that don't work, but I think you can find factors most of the time. But this is an example of one that cannot be factored. All right, so let's take a look at another one. We want to multiply these two, so I'm going to have negative 18, bring down my x squared, bring down my negative 3x. So I want factors of negative 18 that will add together to give you negative 3. All right, so factors of 18, 6 and 3, that's what I'm thinking about. 6 and 3, that would give you negative 18, as long as one of them is negative. The 6, because that one, you want to add them together to get negative 3. That does work. All right, so let's go down here and change this up. Let's bring this down, 9x squared. We want to do minus 6x. We want to do plus 3x. We want to do minus 2. And now we're going to group, and hopefully these things are factorable, right? So we're going to be able to take out a 3x, which will allow me to have 3x minus 2 left. I got 3x minus 2. That means I'm going to have a plus 1 on the outside. So 3x minus 2 times 3x plus 1. Cha-ching! It worked. And so sometimes you will have things that are not able to be factored. But it all lies right here. Can you find factors that multiply together and then add together? The thing about it is a lot of times you will just give up. You'll be like, well, screw this, I'm done. Okay, but you can do it. Okay, you just got to think. You got to think a little bit. You got to remember this. You got to remember something. You got to remember that you can't give up just because numbers get large or anything like that. You can always figure out the problem. You just have to think about it a little bit. And sometimes you'll get all the way down to the end and you'll notice something didn't work. And so you have to go back and review your work to see what happened and what just didn't work, right? And so like the problem we just did, it just didn't work. So and that happens. And you're going to have some problems where that happens because things are not always factorable. Things are not always perfect. Okay? All right. Good luck. Keep working. Keep practicing.